Before diving in and creating the project, I think it's important to talk just a little bit about equipment, so I hope you're equipped for that discussion. I don't want to get too bogged down in specifics, but I do think it is important to talk about at least some of the basics for what you need to edit within Final Cut Pro. First and foremost, you need Final Cut Pro. That's a given, right? So in order to have Final Cut Pro, you need an Apple computer because it only works on Apple computers. It will work on basically any Apple computer made since 2012, but the version that you're going to be able to upgrade to might be limited by the operating system that your computer is on. Final Cut Pro is extremely well optimized software, so that's one of the reasons that it runs so well, because it's built for the hardware that it's running on. The biggest difference that your computer is going to make is not really the functionality of Final Cut so much, but the performance. If you're somebody who does plan on doing a lot of 4K video, having a more powerful or a newer computer is going to make a huge difference. If you're somebody who works primarily with 1080 footage, then you have a lot more flexibility, and a lot of the older computer models will work totally fine. And of course, laptop versus desktop is all just personal preference. If you're looking to get a new computer and you just kind of want a basic Final Cut recommendation, obviously technology does change constantly, but I generally recommend at least any of the Apple M1 computers and beyond. So they came out with their own M1 processor a while back, and that is, it's such a good, even the basic cheapest computer you can get that has an M1 processor in it will handle Final Cut Pro and a lot of things incredibly well. If you upgrade your processor and your storage and your RAM beyond that, it's just going to get, better and better and continue to work better and better. A bigger thing in terms of equipment really comes down to how you're going to be interacting with the software. For this course, I'm editing everything on the laptop, which is something I do very regularly in real life, is just work directly on this computer. The downside to this is that the screen isn't super big, so I'm constantly switching windows and it can get a little bit annoying. I do have a really nice big monitor over here. This is a 34-inch curved ultra-wide monitor. I love ultra-wide monitors because the Final Cut Pro timeline can just take up this whole thing, and it's really fun to edit with that. And then the MacBook can be a second monitor, so that way I can have my footage that I'm choosing from, my editing here, and I can drag footage there, and it's a really efficient workflow. The reason I don't use that all the time is because I spend a lot of time editing personally, and I just kind of don't want to live in one space 24/7. So the ability to just then unplug my computer and go somewhere else, take it with me if I travel, even just go outside and just sit outside and work on something can feel really nice sometimes. So I love the versatility of a laptop. But if it's possible, having a second display or a bigger display to connect to whatever computer you're using is definitely a worthwhile investment if you're going to be doing a lot of editing. And the other thing comes down to a keyboard and a mouse. It's probably a good idea to get an external thing. Sometimes editing on a trackpad, not the most pleasant experience, although, it's totally doable. I just have this one keyboard here, which is a Bluetooth keyboard. This is a Logitech MX Keys. And I like this one because with just one button up here, I can switch between different computers. So I do have a base model M1 Mac Mini that's kind of running my permanent setup in here. And I've got my MacBook Pro, but by just pressing one button, I can switch. And now this computer will work with the MacBook. I can push another button, and now it will work with the Mac Mini. And that's just super helpful to switch between them. And then I've got a mouse that is just for the MacBook Pro. And then I can edit with my keyboard and my mouse, which is just a little bit faster and a little more efficient. If you have the ability to do that, I definitely recommend it. But if not, if you're someone who travels a lot or you just don't like using those things, you don't have access to them, just a laptop, whatever you got is totally fine. And then of course you will need some way to import your footage. So whatever you're filming on, if it's a phone and it's an Apple phone, you can just use AirDrop and wirelessly transfer everything to your computer. If it's a different phone, you have to figure out a way to get your footage onto your computer. If you're using a camera with a memory card, this has an SD card slot on the side. My cameras take SD cards, so I just pop the card in there and I'm good to go. If you're using a camera that takes a different memory card or your computer doesn't have a slot, then you might need an external card reader that you can connect to your computer and then bring in your footage. I know this is all pretty basic, but sometimes it might sound fun to edit and then you realize, oh my God, how do I even get the stuff from the camera into the thing? So that's some of the basics in terms of equipment that you need to get started. There's definitely no need to worry about having the latest and greatest gear and upgrading all the time. Final Cut works great on such a wide variety of computers, and even if it's not the newest or the fastest, you can probably still get a lot done and still be super creative with it. So as long as you have something that works reasonably well and doesn't drive you crazy, you're gonna be good to go. All right, let's jump in and create a brand new project.